Dear students, you are welcome in this class. I am Dr. Dinesh Kumar, Principal Scientist from IERA New Delhi, and today is 12th September 2022. The topic is soil microbes and their role in soil fertility improvement. So, as you know that soil has got three different kind of properties. One is your physical properties, then chemical properties, and biological properties. So in biological properties, all the organisms living in soil are studied. What are their functions, how to improve their population, and so forth. In the biological life or biological life in soil, you got variety of organisms. Some are visible through our naked eyes, some are not. For some, we need microscope. And these microscopic organisms are your soil microbes. We also got some bigger organism, like your earthworms is clearly seen. Termites are there. So many times we see that termites are harmful, but actually they are not from the perspective of soil health. Many times it has been found that they improve the soil health, these termites, ants, millipedes, a variety of organisms are there. Nematodes are also important. So ultimately they have got a food web in the soil where one gets energy and food from another organism. And one is dependent upon other. If a link is missing in between, the other population will be in danger. So, and considering the role of microbes in soil fertility management, I just designed this lecture for you so we can get into it. Now, we will learn the types, diversity, and classification of soil organisms, particularly microbes. Understand the factors affecting beneficial role and management of soil organisms for their enhanced contribution in soil fertility. If you remember, in soil fertility decline, we have talked about the microbes also, biological health of the soil. So if you lose soil by erosion, you are also losing microbes and biological organisms. So that we'll discuss in detail. Now, let us, before I start, let us see actinomycetes. Just I found them very important. That is why I want to give you some information on actinomycetes. So also called as actinobacteria. Other name is actinobacteria. So they are not fungus, which was considered before. They are actually bacteria and group of rod-shaped or filamentous bacterium. Some cause diseases in human beings also. Like actinomycosis. Actinomycosis is a serious disease. Sometimes it happens in human beings also. And they are source of antibiotics and also important is soil organic matter decomposition. And very interesting fact is that actinomycetes are actively involved in the composting process. When composting process reaches at a high level, that means in the advanced stage, when temperatures are very high. So it is mostly actinomycetes that decompose or digest the organic matter. So they have very important role in composting as well as in the decomposition of organic matter in soil. So actinomyces colonies form fungus-like branched network of hyphae. Fungus-like, they look like fungus because they produce mycelium, which is branched. These are known as, these branches are arranged in a certain pattern and they are called as ray, R-A-Y, ray. Most common genus is Streptomyces for actinomycetes, and currently more than 75% antibiotics are derived from its species in the world, particularly members of genus Streptomyces and Micromonospora. They are important to produce antibiotics, and number of antibiotics are produced by actinomycetes like aureomycin, chloromycetin, kanamycin, neomycin, streptomycin, and terramycin. So they find very wide role, including their role in organic matter recycling. Sometimes you can experience the smell when a soil is plowed. So at that time, certain unseen volatiles are released by actinomycetes. And because of that, we can smell some good smell, you can say. Some smell comes out. Greek word atkis and mycus. Atkis means ray, as their mycelium shows, and mycus means fungi. Their species are Actinomyces israeli, Streptomyces color, Streptomyces scabies, and Nocardia brasilensis, and Nocardia asteroids. So these are important species. And actinomycosis is a disease in human being caused by Actinomyces israeli. And some other diseases are also caused by certain other actinomycetes. So this is just giving you some exposure to actinomycetes. I think you know what is mesofauna, microfauna, microflora. So I need not to go into this. Let us straightway come to the soil ecosystem. What is there in soil ecosystem? We know in soil ecosystem there are some physical component and some biological components and some chemical component. So it is soil ecosystem is an interdependent life support system comprising of air, water, mineral, organic matter, and macro and microorganisms. So this is there in the soil, and all of which function together and interact very closely. So they are dependent upon each other. Their interaction is very, very important. Some functions of a healthy soil ecosystem. What soils are doing actually? They are performing variety of roles. And from the perspective of this lecture or this topic, we are discussing functions of a healthy soil ecosystem. So what soil is doing? Decomposing organic matter, converting to humus, and retain nitrogen and nutrients and other nutrients, and glue the soil particle together. It improves its own structure, protect roots from disease and parasites, make retained nutrients available to the plant, produce hormones for plant growth, and retain water. So these are number of functions are there for to be performed by soil. So soil organisms are part of the food web. So food web is there. The organism and their interaction enhance many soil ecosystem functions and make up the soil food web. The energy needed for all food webs is generated by primary producers. So actually there are different trophic levels, and in these every organism require food and energy. So where to start? Somebody need to start. So it is the green plants or those who are phototropes. They start synthesizing food. So the energy is needed for all food webs is generated by primary producers. Primary producers are plants, lichen, mosses, moss, photosynthetic bacteria, and algae. They are in soil that use sunlight to transform carbon dioxide from the atmosphere into the carbohydrate. So these primary producers, as many of you know, synthesize the food through photosynthesis, and you need light, carbon dioxide, and energy from the sun. So here sun's energy is useful. So most other organisms depend on the primary producer. The next trophic level will come. But they depend for their energy and nutrients. They are called consumers. So next level is consumers. Now you see byproducts from growing roots and plant residue feed soil organism. Now the food was manufactured by green plants or other lichens or other organism, green organism in soil. And now, for example, plants synthesize their food. They did photosynthesis, and part of their food is released into the soil. The carbon synthesized by microbes, by plants, green plants, is released into the soil through root exudation, and that feeds the organism. So plants can directly feed the organism in soil, or indirectly when their leaves or dry matter fall on the ground, or you mix it artificially. Sometimes you can harvest the plant and bring them back into the soil. directly or in the form of manures. So ultimately, these plants are coming back to the soil and they are giving food to the organism. In turn, what these organisms are doing, number of jobs are performed by organism to help the plant. They will help the plant. Plant is giving them carbon and they will give something back to the plant. So they decompose the organic matter and they ultimately mineralization will happen and that will give food to the plant. They cycle the nutrients, these microbes, enhance soil structure mainly by production of humus, they improve the structure and control the population of soil organism, both beneficial and harmful, pests and pathogens in terms of crop production. So there is interaction. We know that process is antibiosis. One organism will affect the other. So they keep each other's population at normal level. So it is mostly by nature. Nature has already controlled and developed systems or balances are there in every system. Now let us see soil organisms are component of organic matter, soil organic matter. You already know about 5% organic matter is contributed by soil organism. The living part of soil organic matter includes variety of microbes. For example, you know, bacteria, viruses, fungi, protozoa. These are the major microbes and they are living part of soil. Also include plant roots, insect, earthworms, and larger animals such as moles, mice, even rabbits that spend part of their life in the soil. Rats, they are also organisms in the soil, maybe macroorganism, but they are sometimes residing in soil. The living portion represent about 5% of the total soil organic matter. So it is a significant part. Whatever organic matter is there, out of that the living part, out of that 5% is living organic matter. Microorganisms, earthworms and insects help break down crop residues and manures by ingesting them into mixing them with minerals in soil. So they are doing the job of decomposition and they are not doing it for free. So they will be using some nutrients from the soil. As you know, immobilization happens. So they also use certain nutrients available in the soil. And of course, once they ingest it, they themselves will decompose. They will not take away nutrients or carbon from soil. It will remain as such, but for the time being, the individual will change. Then there are certain organism in soil, they produce sticky substances on the skin of earthworms, for example, mucilage kind of thing, sticky substances on the skin of earthworms and those produced by fungi. Certain slime fungi also produce some mucilages and bacteria help bind particles together. So they are helping in the improvement of soil structure through release of chemicals or organic compounds and also through their kind of tillage. They move from one place to another place. So that way they aerate the soil. Earthworms casts are the excreta of earthworm. You can see in the picture on the right side, these are earthworm casts are also more strongly aggregated. You can see the kind of aggregation in the earthworm cast bound together, resulting due to mixing of organic matter and soil minerals. So why these granulated kind of casts are there, excreta are there? They are mostly result of the mixing of clays and organic matter or soil particle and organic matter. The organisms are responsible for keeping air and water available, providing nutrients, breaking the pollutants. This is very important role of microbes. They break down the pollutants, pesticides, and maintaining the soil structure. The composition of soil organism depends on the food source, which in turn is season dependent. Means around the year you will not have same variety or same kind of organism constantly. They are going to change with the temperature. They are going to change with the water, means climatic conditions, your crop conditions, land use systems, management. All these are going to affect the composition of soil organism. It will not remain same. They are changing. So they are neither uniformly distributed through the soil nor uniformly present all the year. They are mostly concentrated in upper layer of the soil, In lower layer, you will not find great activity of microbes or soil organisms. Each species and group exists where it can find appropriate food supply, space, nutrients, and moisture. So these are the factors which will affect the microbes. For example, appropriate food supply, space, nutrients, and moisture. If they get best of these or optimum of these, their growth will be more. Organism occur whenever organic matter occurs. So first attraction for organism is, out of all these, organic matter. That is the feed, but that is the food for them. So therefore, they are concentrated around the roots. They consider that there is organic matter because of release of root exudates. They find freshly released acids and they can consume them. So there is food around the roots. Therefore, their concentration is more in rhizospheric soil than the bulk soil. In litter on humus, you get higher concentration of humus, litter in the upper layer. And then soil aggregates and in spaces between aggregates. Most relevant, prevalent in forested areas and cropping system that leave a lot of biomass on the surface. So definitely microbial activity will be more when your field has some crops or plants are there, maybe weeds, but plants have to be there. Then you can expect more activity of microbes than the fallow land where there is no crops. Crops are not there. Now, let us see the activity of soil organisms. The activity of soil organism follows seasonal as well as daily pattern. It changes with time, even within a day. Activities are different. Sometimes they may be more active, sometimes less active. So it follows season also. Not all organisms are active at the same time. Most are barely active or even dormant. Availability of food, that is organic matter, is an important factor that influences the level of activity of soil organism. And thus, it is related to land use and management. Land use means what kind of land use is there? Is it under forest? Is it under grassland? Is it under cultivated cropland? That is your land use, and how you are using this land. That is management. What kind of crops you are growing, how you are managing organic matter, what is crop rotation that is followed, etc. So land use and management. Practices that increase number and activity of soil organism include what practices means agricultural practices, management practices that can improve the activity of soil organisms are no-till or minimum tillage. So there are a number of reports that in no-tillage you have higher microbial activity. Maintenance of plant and annual residues. That is your, in conservation agriculture, you maintain some amount of residues as surface mulch. So that also affects the microbial activity. At least it moderates the soil temperature. Therefore, it is known to enhance the microbial activity. So maintenance of plant and annual residues. This may be considered as animal residues that reduce disturbance of soil organisms and their habitat and provide a food supply. So it is doing multiple role. Sometimes it can also supply food because this decomposition of organic matter from the mulch is of course very slow, but some of the carbon will leach down into the surface soil and that can be utilized by microbes. Now you see the seasonal activity. Fluctuation in microbial biomass at different stages of crop development in conventional agriculture compared with systems with residue retention and high organic matter. So there can be two comparable conditions. One is where you have put surface mulch and one is your conventional agriculture, conventional tillage, where you have done plowing and you have not retained the residue. So see activity of microbes in conventional tillage, the red one, dotted line. So on x-axis, you have time of crop, for example, harvesting time, sowing time, and then flowering time, then harvest, again harvest. So this is one crop and this is second crop, sowing, flowering, harvest. And then you can, on the y-axis, you have number of dissolving bacteria, phosphorus dissolving bacteria. So y-axis is representing you the microbial activity. So you can see the green one. So in green one, you can see the highest activity is at the time of sowing, and then it start decreasing till flowering, and then harvest. Again in the next season. Next season, it follows the same, but the levels of activity are low. So maybe it may be, for example, for Kharif, and it may be for Rabi. So in Rabi, it is just to give you idea that within a year, how it is changing. Number one. Number two, you can see the difference in two methods of tillage or two methods of management. In conventional, it is reaching at peak at sowing, also in the other, but the increase is very fast. Increase is very fast and then slows down. So I think this one is better. Okay, whatever levels are there, levels of activity, but they are almost smooth. In this case, sudden increase, then fall, increase and fall. Now we come to the main topic. It was just background of the subject. If you could not follow much, now I believe that you will follow. So classification of soil organisms are classified based upon the following two criteria: based upon their size and classification based upon their function. Two type of classifications are there. So microflora, you know, they are plant of a smaller size, less than 5 micrometer. Examples are bacteria, fungi. Microfauna means microbes from animal kingdom, less than 100 micrometer, includes protozoa and nematodes. Macroorganisms are divided into two, mesoorganism and macroorganism. So meso are 100 micrometer to 2 millimeter, springtails, tails and mites. Macroorganism 2 to 20 millimeter or more than that. Earthworms, millipedes, wood lice, snails and sludges. And plants are also there, algae, 10 micrometer, and roots. Here it may be root here, more than 10 micrometer. So you can see a better classification from Brady's book, Nature and Properties of Soil. You can check. So in this case, you can see some important soil organism grouped by size. Generalized grouping by body width and food source. So macroorganism, Brady classifies them as more than 10 millimeter size. It includes all heterotrophs, herbivores. Herbivores, you know, those who are eating the greens, detritivores. Detritivores means those who are eating the dead organic matter. An animal which feeds on dead organic material, especially plant detritus. Detritus means dead organic matter of plants or animal. So these are detritivores, fungivores, bacterivores, and predators. So such kind of organisms are included as macroorganisms. Examples are vertebrates. In vertebrates, you got gophers, moles, snakes, and salamanders. And arthropods, your ants, beetles, and their larvae, centipedes, grubs, maggots, millipedes, spiders, termites, large columbola. So these all are macroorganism, size more than 2 millimeter. Then all heterotrophs like herbivores, detritivores, fungivores, bacterivores. In this, you can have annelids like earthworms, then mollusks, snails, slugs, and largely autotrophs, vascular plants or bryophytes. So you can see these are all macroorganisms, size more than 2 millimeter. Now mesoorganism. Mesoorganism, Brady classifies as 0.1 to 2 millimeter. 0.1 to 2 millimeter size. All heterotrophs like detritivores, fungivores, bacterivores, and predators from arthropoda or arthropods, mites, columbola, pseudoscorpions, all heterotrophs, detritivorous. And then likewise, you got microorganism less than 0.1 millimeter, and you can go through the examples. I will share this presentation. I need not to read it. You can go through it. Now you will come across one more term related to soil organisms like bioturbation. Bioturbation is defined as the reworking of soil. Reworking of soil or kind of plowing or burrowing of soil and sediment by animals or plants. So plant roots move into the soil. They access different parts of the soil, and this is also bioturbation. These include burrowing, ingestion, and defecation of sediment grains. Means when organisms are moving through the soil, they are making some path, they are making some route, tunnel, they may make tunnel. So these all activities are bioturbation. Burrowing, ingestion, and defecation. Defecation means you're releasing excreta. Now, dear students, microbes, just now you have seen they are divided based upon their size, and they are also classified based upon essential functions. For example, maintenance of soil structure. So in this, bioturbating invertebrates and plant roots are useful. Mycorrhiza and some other microbes are in this group. Then regulation of soil hydrological processes, gas exchange and carbon sequestration, soil detoxification, nutrient cycling. So these are functions actually, functions of microbes you can see, and also examples are given. Nutrient cycling, decomposition of organic matter, suppression of pests, parasite and diseases. This is also important. Kind of biological control, natural biological control, source of food and medicines. So like plant roots, various insects, crickets, beetle larvae, ants, termites. Some Chinese people eat such kind of insects also. Crickets, beetles, larvae, termites, ants, earthworms. So they can be source of food also. Symbiotic and asymbiotic relationship with plants, plant growth control, positive and negative. So you can see here, just you can see 11 functions are listed, but they can perform many more functions also. So students are advised to go through, read these. This I will send you, so you can read these 2 slides yourself. Now comes the different trophic levels. Trophic levels in soil, that is energy and food levels. In the levels of the food, soil food web. So I know that you are not able to see the first column here in this picture, but I read it for you. So first of all, at first level, trophic level, means you need somebody to manufacture the food, to get some energy from natural sources. So producers are fixers and sources. Algae, green algae, moss, cyanobacteria, shoots or green plants, you can say, and then roots. Roots, of course, are not exactly producer, but root are helping the shoot to produce food. So therefore, root is also part of the plant. So it is mostly root is kept under the soil. It is soil organism. Root is considered as soil organism anyway. So these are producers, and then inorganic nitrogen in the soil can be consumed by the roots or by any other organism living in soil. Or here inorganic nitrogen is just representing the food. They take minerals from the soil. And also you get this from you get these nutrients, you can get from organic material, resistant substrates, or ancient substrates. So these are the food. These are the food for the green plants. Green plants, they are taking food from the soil also, and they are manufacturing food from the carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight. So these are producers. Then you have opportunistic immobilizers and mineralizers. So these are several organisms are there. Examples are given here. Similarly, more complex consumer and mineralizers, and then top predators. So these are different trophic level, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 trophic level, and you can see interconnection for food and energy, how they are dependent, how closely. So each one of them are closely related to each other. You can see, very interesting. I cannot explain each and every point, but you can yourself see how they are related to one another. And very interesting fact is that at many levels, you will find nematodes. So nematodes are there at level 2, trophic level 2, at 3 also, and at 4 also. So nematode have very, very important role in nutrient cycling, soil organic matter, decomposition. Many times a student consider nematodes as just as a field problem, means they may cause some problems in the crops or plants. But they are having several useful roles also. So this is how energy and food moves from one level to another level. So food web, and then contribution of soil organism, trophic levels and the soil food web. As one organism eats or metabolizes its food, the nutrients and carbon contained therein are said to be passed from one trophic level to another trophic level. So nobody is living forever. The organism, the plants, the greens who are at the first trophic level, they will die and they will release some food and energy that will be used by organism at higher or number 2 trophic level. The first trophic level is that of the primary producers, such as green plants that produce energy, rich organic substances from abiotic components of the environment. So they take something from air and something from soil, and they manufacture the food, store the energy. The second trophic level consists of the primary consumer. So they will be called primary consumer that eat those producers or their dead products. They can eat them directly or they can eat the dead part of the producers. The third trophic level would be those predators and microbial feeders that eat the primary consumer. So it is just a chain, succession. The fourth level would be predators that eat predators and so on. So this is how in soil, this is happening in your soil. Now, before I go into the details of this energy and carbon dioxide and food and energy transfer, just let us understand what is chemoautotropes, chemoheterotrophs, photoautotropes, and photoheterotrophs. So chemoautotropes are able to synthesize their own food, own organic molecules from CO2 fixation. They can fix carbon dioxide, able to produce own food or energy. These are chemoautotropes. Energy required comes from the oxidation of inorganic molecules such as iron, sulfur, or magnesium. Nitrogen fixing bacteria, iron oxidizing bacteria, sulfur oxidizing bacteria are the example. This nitrogen fixing bacteria, your azoospermum, azotobacter, etc. These are chemoautotropes able to synthesize their own organic molecules from CO2 fixation. Chemoheterotrophs, unable to synthesize their own organic molecules. So they cannot synthesize from carbon dioxide, must ingest preformed. Preformed means already available. Preformed carbon molecules like carbohydrates, if available in soil, and lipids synthesized by other organisms. So they will use the food or material which is available in the soil, synthesized or produced by other organisms. And they obtain energy from the oxidation of inorganic molecules like the chemoautotropes. Chemoautotropes. Example are most of the bacteria, fungi, and protozoa are chemoheterotrophs. Now, photoautotropes carry photosynthesis using energy from sunlight. So these are your green plants. Green plants. Photoheterotrophs depends on organic matter produced by other organisms for nourishment and obtain energy from sunlight. They get energy from sunlight and carbon from organic matter, not CO2. Produce ATP through photophosphorylation. And examples are purple non-sulfur bacteria, green non-sulfur bacteria, and heliobacteria. These are the examples. This was in brief. For better understanding, you can see this table from Vale and Brady book. Metabolic grouping of soil. Maybe we can go to the next link or last link for today. So dear student, you can see metabolic grouping of soil organism according to their source of metabolic energy and their source of carbon, source of energy and source of food, how they are classified. You have seen in detail what is meant by chemo, heterotrophs, autotroph, phototroph, etc. So now you see source of carbon, biochemical oxidation for source of energy. For source of energy, is it biochemical oxidation of existing food or they are manufacturing through solar radiation? So you can see combined organic carbon. This includes chemoheterotrophs. All animals, plant roots, fungi, actinomycetes are chemoheterotrophs. And most bacteria, examples are earthworms, Aspergillus, Azotobacter, Pseudomonas. Then carbon dioxide or carbonate as a source of carbon. Then chemoautotrophs. Some bacteria, many archaea. Example, ammonia oxidizers, Nitrosomonas, sulfur oxidizers, Thiobacillus denitrificans. And then if energy, a source of energy is solar radiation and source of carbon is combined organic carbon, then they are photoheterotrophs. A few algae, I have given you example. Then source of carbon is carbon dioxide or carbonate. And then energy is your solar energy, plant roots, algae, and cyanobacteria, chlorella, nostoc. So you can see it is very simplified way to classify organism into four. Now, sources of energy and carbon, little bit more on this autotroph and heterotrophs. Soil organism may be classified either as autotrophic or heterotrophic based on where they obtain the carbon needed to build their cell constituent. Heterotrophic soil organisms obtain their carbon from breakdown of organic materials. Heterotrophic get carbon from breakdown of organic materials previously produced by other organisms. Nearly all heterotrophs also obtain their energy from oxidation of the carbon in organic compounds. So this is the way to get energy. They are responsible for organic decay and most soil food web processes. These organisms, which include all soil animals, the fungi, actinomycetes, and most other bacteria, are far more numerous than the arthropods. Autotrophs obtain their carbon from CO2 rather than from carbon already fixed in organic material. That is the difference. Autotrophs are classified based on how they obtain energy. Both will get CO2 as a source. They will synthesize it into food. But now how they will get energy? Some are solar energy, photoautotrophs, while others use energy released by oxidation of inorganic elements such as N, S, and iron. I hope this should be more clear now. The autotrophs are mainly algae, cyanobacteria, or certain other bacteria and archaea. Above ground shoots of plants are autotrophic, while the below ground roots have behave somewhat as heterotrophs. The root is heterotroph and shoot is autotroph, metabolizing organic compounds synthesized by the shoot and transported to the root. Now, after this background, we come to the factors that affect the growth and activity of soil microorganisms. So, dear students, I'm giving you somewhat exposure, and then what is the importance of this area, this subject, and all of us students studying this course should know it because it is very much part of soil fertility, this soil microbiology or soil microbes. So, you can go through the Brady book, Nature and Properties of Soil. Very well written and excellent text. You need not to bother much and read from that book. Factor affecting the growth and activity of soil organism. What are the different factors? So the soil organism community is indispensable to the plant productivity and ecological functioning of soil. Of the major beneficial effects on plant community, some most important can be summarized as organic resources, oxygen requirements, moisture and temperature, exchangeable calcium and pH. So these are actually factors affecting their growth. So can anyone throw some light on organic resources, how these organic resources will affect the growth or activity of microbes, their number or their function? How organic matter will affect their number and their function? Anybody, any idea? See, there are 4 factors: organic resources, oxygen requirement, moisture, temperature, exchangeable calcium, and pH. How oxygen will affect the growth and activity of organism? You know it. Either you are not there, you are not present, or you are not interested to answer, or you are shy. How moisture and temperature will affect the growth and activity of soil organism? Anybody, any idea about all these factors? Are you there or not? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So any idea how this oxygen, you know, aerobic organism, anaerobic organism. So if oxygen is available, then you will get better growth of aerobic organism. If oxygen is decreased, then this aerobic microbes will reduce in number, and vice versa. So what is there? What is tough in there? Similarly, organic resources. If you have sufficient organic resources, they will multiply more. They will have more growth. If organic resources are missing or less, they will have less growth. So what is there? Similarly, can you explain moisture and temperature? Anybody can explain how this moisture or temperature can affect? You should have confidence. Tomorrow you have to face a variety of people in your life. You have to appear in number of interviews. And if you are so shy, then it will be very difficult for you. You have to be a little bit outward, not just inward. Introvert, you see, introvert, extrovert. You need to be a little bit extrovert also. Outspoken. So anybody, now I will name and call you. I will see your name and call you. Prakash Dhan.
Yes, sir.
Prakash Dhana, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Could you discuss? Could you tell us that how this moisture and temperature will affect the growth and activity of soil organisms, soil microbes? Moisture and temperature. I think, don't worry. And it applies to all of you. You need to work very hard. If you do not know how organisms are classified, then what else is expected from you? You know, many times organisms are, any organism, just forget about soil, are divided into different, like based upon temperature. Those who survive at very low temperature, at moderate temperature, at high temperature, at very high temperature, isn't it? So microbes have been classified based upon temperature. If you do not know, then I'm really very sorry about all of you. I'm really very sorry about all of you that what will happen to you. Means it's very simple thing. How moisture will affect organism. If you cannot answer 2 lines, what is expected from you? You are 16 in number, and nobody can tell me that how moisture will affect the activity of microbes. Then there is something wrong with you. Now, anybody can come forward. Hello. Okay, I think nobody is there, and it is time for me to finish the class. And after this class, I will not take any class in the in this course.
Sir,
Thank you very much.
sir,
If nobody is listening
sir,
to,
in high, sir,
yeah,
sir, in high temperature, the thermophilic organisms are better survive, and moderate temperature, mesophilic organisms are better survive.
yeah. So what does it mean? What does it mean? Can you explain it? You said that thermophilic high temperature, psychrophilic low temperature. So what does it mean? Can you explain me? What is the meaning of this? Can you interpret it? So simple. You are not putting your brain there. What is meant that some organism, you said like this, so therefore, organisms which are getting ideal temperature, psychrophilic organism will survive, they will grow better at the optimum temperature which is required for their growth. And similarly, other organism or any organism will have maximum growth at the ideal temperature. It was a single line answer. It was a organism which can survive. If you get organism getting optimum temperature can be having highest growth. So this was simplest answer. Anyway, I can continue. Now I feel that you are there. Anyway, organic resources. So how these organic resources will affect the activity of microbes? The addition of almost any energy-rich organic material, including compounds excreted by plant roots, stimulates microbial growth. So any organic material which is added to soil will increase the microbial growth. Generally, bacteria tend to respond most rapidly to addition of simple compounds such as starch and sugars, while fungi and actinomycetes overshadow the other microbes if added organic materials are rich in cellulose and other resistant compound. Means the nature of food. If you get your sugar rich or starch rich food, then the microbial growth of particularly of journalist bacteria will be high. If the food is rich in cellulose and resistant compound, then fungi would prefer. So fungi would overtake the activity of bacteria. So overall, you can say that addition of organic matter increases population of microbes or their activity. In addition, if organic materials are left on the surface, as in forest litter, fungi dominate the microbial activity. If you leave the residue on the surface, then fungi dominate the activity. But if it is mixed in soil, then bacteria dominate. In general, these are general, irrespective of the pH. General statement, many bacteria adapted to life in the plant rhizosphere are sensitive to growth factors and signaling compounds released by plant roots. Many bacteria also communicate with organic compounds they produce to enable coordinated group action with other individuals. Now, oxygen requirement. So most soil microbes are aerobic and use oxygen as the electron acceptor in their metabolism. But some prokaryotes are anaerobic and use substances other than oxygen. So they can use nitrates, oxygen from nitrates, sulfate, or other electron acceptors. Facultative bacteria can use either aerobic or anaerobic forms of metabolism. So in general, very simple that aerobic organism, if sufficient oxygen supply is there, aerobic organism will multiply fast. If we reduce the oxygen level in soil, their activity will reduce. All three of these types of metabolism, aerobic, anaerobic, and facultative, three kind of metabolism are there, usually carried out simultaneously in different habitats within a soil. So a soil may have different zones. Some zones may be aerobic, some may be less or aerobic, and some may be totally anaerobic. It is possible in soil that there are certain sites within the soil which are not oxygenated. So within a soil column, up to the level where microbes live, some sites or sites in the soil may be anaerobic. So all kind of organisms exist together, are usually carried out simultaneously in different habitats within a soil. The zone of greatest or largest microbial activity usually occurs just a few centimeters below the soil surface where oxygen is high and the soil is not too dry. So in the surface region, there is maximum microbial activity. Moisture and temperature. So optimum moisture is required, and for higher plants, there are also soil organism, roots are soil organism. So -10 to -70 kilopascal is also usually best. That is maybe 0.1 to 0.7 bar, I think. Too high a water content will limit the oxygen supply. So in one line, you can say that these microbial activity is generally greatest when temperatures are 20 to 40 degree centigrade, majority of the microbes. The warmer end of this range tends to favor actinomycetes. Ordinary soil temperature extremes seldom kill bacteria and commonly only temporarily suppress their activity. So even ordinary temperature, the bacteria have got mechanism to survive. However, except for certain psychrophilic species, most microbes cease metabolic activity below 3 to 5 degrees centigrade, a temperature sometimes referred to as biological zero, 3 to 5 degrees centigrade. Bacterial and archaeal activities have been documented at sub-zero temperatures in underpolar ice. So you can see extremes of temperature are there where microbes can survive. Exchangeable calcium and pH also influences microbial activity. So levels of exchangeable calcium and pH help determine which specific organism thrive in a particular soil. So this pH and calcium are important. Some prokaryote species will thrive in any chemical condition found in soils. High calcium and near neutral soils result in bacterial population. So you know it, in neutral and alkaline soil, bacterial community dominate, and in acidic, fungi dominate. So now you can see beneficial effects of soil organism. What are the benefits? So soil organic matter formation and nutrient cycling, number one benefit. Number two, breakdown of toxic compounds. Sometimes pesticides are reaching into the soil, so they break down the toxic compounds. Inorganic transformation of the nutrients, nitrogen fixation, and plant protection. So these are the 5 major beneficial effects or role of organisms. So you can go through them. I'll just flash the slides and you can read them. So for example, soil organic matter formation and nutrient cycling. Most significant biological function of soils is the decomposition of dead plant tissue. So what is happening? They decompose and take some carbon. When they multiply in number, they take carbon from the organic matter, and then that carbon becomes part of their body, and ultimately they die and make the carbon. So this is how they are useful. And nutrient cycling, you already understand how these microbes decompose the organic matter. Mineralization and immobilization happens. Why microbes decompose organic matter? What is the reason? Supplying energy for growth and supplying carbon. For 2 purposes, they decompose the organic matter. And as you know, decomposition releases nutrients. So soil fauna like earthworms, arthropods, how they are helping in the decomposition of organic matter. So these break down organic matter into small pieces, and that increases surface area. So you need to have, sometimes you put a whole log of wood, log of wood into the field. It will not decompose easily. But if you break it into pieces, small pieces, and mix it in the soil, it will get decomposed. Because by cutting it into pieces, you are increasing the surface area. So more the surface area and more is the microbial decomposition. So therefore, this role of earthworm and some arthropods is important. They break down the larger particles of organic materials into small. And then there are three main processes in the decomposition. It includes assimilation, mineralization, and immobilization. Now, after just you have seen role in nutrient cycling and organic matter decomposition. Second role is breakdown of toxic compound. So number of toxic compounds are broken down by microbes. You can see their role. Then inorganic transformation like nitrate, sulfate, to a lesser extent phosphate ions present in soil primarily due to inorganic transformation. Please go through it, inorganic transformation. And the fourth beneficial effect is nitrogen fixation. I think everybody knows this nitrogen fixation. Actually, I prepared large number of slides for this presentation because of limited time. But anyhow, I try to cover this topic. Now you see causes for the reduced microbial activities. Sometimes microbial activity is low. It is reduced. So what are the causes for it? Soil erosion. Most of that I already discussed these issues. Only thing is that you need to arrange them, rearrange them. Knowledge is same, but sometimes you need to rearrange it so that it suits to you. Soil erosion, reduced level of organic matter, they will decrease the microbial activity. Improper crop rotation. What is microbial activity? So microbial activity can be measured in several respects. One respect should be that they are increasing in number. It shows that they are active, their activity is more. Or we can measure microbial activity indirectly by counting their weight also. Soil biomass or soil microbial biomass. We can count their biomass and we can see how much is the activity, because that can be counted or measured at different times. I did it today, I can do it after 15 days and so on. So at certain interval, I can know at what point of time we had maximum biomass of the organism. Then that could have reflected in highest microbial activity. Similarly, carbon dioxide evolution. If you can study, if you get more carbon dioxide evolution, that means you get more microbial activity. So you can take their weight, you can take their number, you can take the indirectly by carbon dioxide. And there are some other procedure also. Some people know levels of soil enzymes. Certain enzymes level increases if microbial activity increases. For example, dehydrogenase. Dehydrogenase is an enzyme which is in soil and it reflects microbial activity. Generally, higher level of dehydrogenase or FDA hydrolysis indicate more microbial activity in the soil. So, soil erosion reduces microbial activity, improper crop rotation like monoculture, indiscriminate use of pesticide, excess fertilizer, degradation in physical properties of the soil, irrigation with polluted water, waterlogging for a long period, and adverse speech. So all these management and some natural phenomena will affect the microbial activity in soil. Now, major threats to soil biodiversity. So in other sense, the soil biodiversity. Soil biodiversity is related to all kind of organism, meso, macro, micro kind of organism. And you have seen how these organisms are interrelated, micro, macro. Even their survival is interdependent and their functions are also interdependent, these microbes and macrobes. So you can see what are the threats to soil biodiversity. So I will just flash the slide. You can go through these slides, what is written. For example, first threat to biodiversity is soil biodiversity is deforestation, cutting the forest. And what are the drivers like land use change, loss of soil organic matter, nutrient, and see the effect. So number one is threat is deforestation can reduce soil biodiversity. Your agricultural intensification, taking more and more crops every year. Nutrient imbalances can be the result of agricultural intensification. So nutrient imbalances also threat to biodiversity, because nutrient imbalances will result in reduced production of reduced plant production, crop production, and that will ultimately affect the soil biodiversity. Acidification of the soil, you know why it is happening and how it is affecting the microbial or community or soil biodiversity. Salinization same way can affect. Then you can see pollution. Pollution can also affect the soil biodiversity. And then fire, forest fire. You know, this year we got many cases of forest fire in Europe, US, and in many other countries. Erosion and landslides, they are all threats to soil biodiversity. Loss of soil organic matter. So at least you can prepare a list that what are the factors that affect the soil biodiversity, or factors that can reduce the soil biodiversity, factors reducing the soil biodiversity. Now you must be agreeing to it that definitely soil fertility has gone down, soil biodiversity has gone down, or microbial activities in soil have decreased. And tomorrow they will decrease further. There is no doubt about it, because you have seen what are the factors that affect the microbial activity in soil. You have seen temperature. Now temperatures are changing due to climate change. So it will go further worse. You see water availability. Water availability is decreasing. So in long run, if it continues, then microbial activity will reduce. The organic matter levels of soil are reducing. That will also reduce the soil biodiversity and soil activity of microbes. We have deforestation, we have intensification, we have more chemical farming, addition of chemicals into the soil. So a lot of things are coming into picture. They are suggesting including management practices, your natural causes like climate change, and some other issues. Your microbial biodiversity is going down. We need to restore it. We need to improve it. How can we do it? By sustainable soil management. Students must learn what is meant by sustainable soil management, how we can manage the soil sustainably. This is very important topic for you to study, to self-study. Regular addition of organic amendments is necessary. Adoption of crop rotations and diversification. I discussed whole lecture on crop rotations and their role. Restricted use of pesticide in soil. It is possible if we follow integrated pest management practices or balanced and integrated nutrient management, improve physical and chemical properties of the soil, optimum level of irrigation and avoid polluted water, and reclaim the pH, the acidic, saline, and alkali soils. So thank you very much for your kind attention. We will meet tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye.